There are lots of reasons why your nonprofit's annual IRS Form 990 is critically important. Chief among those reasons, you're legally required to file one each year. But another important consideration is the public transparency Form 990 provides your nonprofit. I'm Greg McRae, founder and CEO of Foundation Group, and welcome to our 501c3 University channel. Today, we're going to be exploring the idea of how your Form 990 aids in your efforts to maintain transparency. Now, operating a nonprofit is a lot like living in a house with floor-to-ceiling windows, but with no curtains. Virtually everything you do is visible to the public, or at least it's supposed to be. It's the grand bargain, if you will, that comes with the privilege of being a tax-exempt 501c3. Now, obviously, you're not likely going to be operating your programs in a fully glass building. So practically speaking, how is this transparency achieved? There's a number of ways, but the most critical is your annual IRS Form 990. Whether you are filing Form 990, 990EZ, or 990PF, each of these information returns are divided into sections, and each section reports specific things about your nonprofit's most recently completed fiscal year. These sections include the following. It's a long list, so here we go. Income and expenses by category, asset and liability balances, the names and titles of officers, directors, and key employees, the compensation amounts of any of those officers, directors, and key employees, detailed descriptions of the nonprofit's programs conducted during the past year, including how many people were served and how much income and expenses were allocated to the activity. Information about last year's fundraisers, including descriptions and detail by event, along with the income and expenses of those events. Lots of yes or no, explain type questions about your compliance with certain issues. Details regarding investment-related activity, grants given, who did you give money to, grants received, who gave you money. If you're a public charity, a breakdown of your past 5 years of revenue by category and the resulting public support test calculation. We recently covered the public support test in another video, so we'll include a link in the description below. If you're a private foundation, a complex calculation of your asset base subject to annual distribution requirements.
And much, much more.
Like I said, the IRS is asking for a lot of detail on your Form 990. In fact, if your nonprofit brings in $200,000 or more in gross revenue each year, that means you file the full version of Form 990, what we call the long form. In addition to the core form, you also potentially have subschedules A through O to think about. I've seen final returns exceed 50 pages for larger organizations. So how is Form 990 data made public? I'm glad you asked. In the past, Form 990 data was collected from the IRS each year by the nonprofit organization called GuideStar. Now, one of GuideStar's purposes is to make sure such data is readily available to the public so that anyone interested can see what a particular charity is up to with regard to both money and activities. GuideStar doesn't rate nonprofits or otherwise make any subjective judgments based on the data, it just simply reports it. Starting in 2016, the IRS began making this data available on their own website, irs.gov/EO. You can search there by the name or EIN number of the charity and review the most recently filed returns. In case you're wondering, there is no opt-out available. As stated above, if your organization is required to file Form 990, 990EZ, or 990PF, your return will be made publicly available on both GuideStar and the IRS website. But there are two notable exceptions. One, churches, and two, public charities that average less than $50,000 per year in gross revenue. Churches, while being public 501c3s, they've always been exempt from filing Form 990. As such, you'll rarely find a church that files one. Now, that doesn't mean that their financial activity is exempt from transparency, however. Churches are required to provide financial reports upon request to those who ask and have standing to inquire. As for the second category, the ones bringing in less than $50,000 per year, these nonprofits file the electronic Form 990N e-postcard. Both GuideStar and the IRS will show that those returns have been filed. But because there's no financial or other data provided, there's really nothing else for a member of the public to see other than the fact that they were submitted. With any rule, there's always the exception, right? In this case, that exception involves donor transparency. A significant section of Form 990 is called the Schedule B. It is here that the IRS requires nonprofits to list all donors who gave more than $5,000 last year. The IRS has always redacted that schedule from the rest of Form 990 before making the information public. The reason has always been about protecting the donor's privacy. Well, in recent years, a handful of states, most notably California, decided it would make such donor information public. Well, as you can imagine, the vast majority of nonprofits weren't very happy about this, and a lawsuit was filed to keep the data private. The lawsuit made it all the way to the Supreme Court in a case known as Americans for Prosperity versus Bonta. The High Court ruled against California in July 2021, requiring it and other states to keep donor data private. Most nonprofits are well aware of their requirements to file Form 990. What many fail to appreciate, however, is the fact that they live in a proverbial glass house. The public has full visibility into your living room, metaphorically speaking, of course, so filing a timely and accurate return is critical. If you need help preparing your Form 990 filings, let us know. Our compliance team would love to help. You can find a link to our Form 990 services page in the description below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button below, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and be sure and click the little bell icon to be notified when we post new content. We've got stuff coming weekly. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.